5 years had passed since Jack Howard dropped his diplomatic pin on the Galactic Council floor. 5 years since humanity abandoned traditional diplomacy. The galaxy had changed forever. Nicol Rivera stood on the stage in the new Confederation Hall on Nexus. The huge room was filled with representatives from 200 worlds. Some had been enemies just a few years ago. Now they sat side by side. 5 years ago, we faced a choice, Nicol said. Her voice was strong and clear. Continue following rules that kept humans and many other species as second-class citizens, or forge a new path. Nicol had replaced Jack Howard as Earth's main diplomat. But unlike Jack, she didn't ask for permission or acceptance. She spoke as an equal to even the oldest species in the room. The path we chose wasn't easy, she continued. When we stood up for ourselves, we shook the foundations of the galaxy. Old powers fell. Chaos spread. Many suffered in the changes that followed. The room was silent. Everyone knew the cost of those 5 years. Pirate attacks, trade disruptions, small wars that flared up as old enemies settled scores. But from that chaos, we have built something better, Nicol said. She touched a control panel, and a large hologram appeared above the stage. It showed ships from dozens of different species working together to protect trade routes. It showed former enemies helping rebuild each other's worlds. Today, we formalize what we have been building for 5 years, the Galactic Confederation. Not ruled by the oldest or the strongest, but by all of us together. In the front row sat President Murphy, now in her second term. Beside her were leaders from worlds that had first joined the Mutual Defense Accord. But there were new faces too. A Joric elder, a Viridian prime minister, even a primordial observer watching silently from the corner. Humanity never wanted to rule, Nicol said. We simply refused to be ruled. The chaos of the past years wasn't our goal. It was the necessary fire that cleared away the old forest of oppression. Outside the hall, ships from 100 worlds patrolled Nexus space. Among them was the ESS Defiance, now commanded by Captain Alan Garcia. On the bridge, he watched the ceremony on a screen. Never thought I'd see the day, said his first officer, looking at a Joric ship flying beside them. 5 years ago, they were trying to destroy us. Alan nodded. Things change. People learn. Back in the hall, Nicol was finishing her speech. Now we build something better, together, as equals. Not through fear or dominance, but through the understanding that true diplomacy requires both wisdom and strength. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of different species. We haven't abandoned diplomacy. We've redefined it. The room erupted in sounds of approval. Different species had different ways of showing support. Some clapped. Some stopped. Some made high whistling sounds. Together, it created a strange harmony. As the ceremony continued, Linda Ortiz sat next to President Murphy. Do you think it will last? Linda asked quietly. Murphy watched as representatives from former enemy worlds signed the Confederation Agreement. Nothing lasts forever, she said. But this is stronger than what came before. It's built on respect, not fear. On choice, not force. As the day ended, ships from the new Confederation departed Nexus. They carried the news to every corner of the galaxy. A new era had begun. On the ESS Defiance, Alan received a message from Earth. New orders. A small world at the edge of known space was asking for help. Pirates again. Set course, he told his crew, and let the Joric ship know they're welcome to join us. As the ships jumped to faster-than-light speed together, Alan thought about how much had changed. 5 years ago, humans and Jorics had been enemies. Now they were partners. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been clean. But humanity had changed the galaxy by refusing to keep playing a rigged game. Sometimes, walking away from the table was the strongest move of all. Captain Frank Daniels stood on the bridge of the ESS Peacekeeper. Through the main window, he could see the small green planet of Zoral. Once it had been a busy Joric colony. Now it was under attack. 6 pirate ships approaching the main settlement, reported Jane. his second in command. "Local defenses are failing." Frank nodded. "Move us into position. Prepare to engage." 3 months had passed since Earth abandoned traditional diplomacy. In that time, the galaxy had changed. Old alliances broke apart. Trade routes collapsed. And in the chaos, pirates and warlords saw opportunity. The ESA Peacekeeper was a new type of ship, fast and well-armed, but not designed for war. It was built to protect, to keep order in a galaxy falling into disorder. "Pirates are firing on the colony," Jane said. Her voice was tense. "Civilian areas being hit." Frank felt a flash of anger. "Target their weapon systems. Disable, don't destroy." The Peacekeeper moved smoothly into battle. Its advanced shields absorbed enemy fire, while its precision weapons cut through the pirates' defenses. In 10 minutes, all 6 pirate ships were drifting, their engines and weapons disabled. "Captain," said a young officer named Greg, "I'm picking up a distress call from the surface. They're asking for medical help." Frank turned to Jane. "Take a team down. Help whoever needs it." 2 hours later, Frank walked through the Jorak colony. The buildings were made of a strange green stone. Some were damaged from the attack. Jorak people, tall aliens with gray skin and 4 arms, worked to repair them. Jane met him in what looked like a town square. "We've treated 40 injured," she said. "No deaths, thankfully." An old Jorak approached them. He walked with a cane made of twisted metal. His skin was wrinkled and pale. "You are the captain?" he asked in a raspy voice. Frank nodded. "Captain Frank Daniels of the ESS Peacekeeper." The old Jorak studied him. "Why did you help us?" "The Jorak were part of the coalition. We tried to destroy your Mars colony." Frank looked around at the damaged buildings, at the Jorak people watching him with curious eyes. "Because this isn't what we wanted," he said simply. "We didn't abandon diplomacy to watch the galaxy burn. We did it because diplomacy without strength behind it is just begging." The old Jorak was quiet for a moment. Then he did something surprising. He bowed. All 4 of his arms crossed over his chest. "The Jorak Council was wrong about humans," he said. "We thought your kindness was weakness. Now we see it was choice." As Frank and his team returned to their ship, Jane seemed troubled. "Something wrong?" Frank asked. "I've been checking reports from across the galaxy," she said. "It's not just here. Everywhere the old powers are weakening. There's chaos. Smaller species are being attacked. Trade hubs are being raided. If this continues..." She didn't need to finish. Frank knew what she meant. The galaxy was sliding into a dark age. The old order had been unfair, but at least it had been stable. Now there was freedom, but also danger. Back on Earth, President Murphy received Frank's report. She shared it with leaders from the 37 worlds now part of the Mutual Defense Accord. "This is the cost of change," said Linda Ortiz, who now led the diplomatic arm of the Accord. "The old powers kept order through fear and control. We've broken that system. Now we need to build something better." "What if we can't?" asked a representative from Nexus. "What if the galaxy isn't ready for the freedom we offer?" President Murphy looked at the reports coming in from across space. Pirates attacking helpless worlds, warlords claiming territory, species that had been enemies for centuries now fighting openly. "We have to try," she said. "We started this chaos when we abandoned the old ways. Now it's our responsibility to end it." She turned to her advisors. "Send messages to all our ships. New orders. Protect any world under attack, regardless of their allegiance, even former enemies." The message went out across human space. Ships like the Peacekeeper changed course, heading for trouble spots throughout the galaxy. A new kind of diplomacy was beginning, not with words, but with actions. The NASA headquarters in Houston was usually a busy place. Today it was silent. Everyone watched as the strange ship landed on the flat concrete area outside the main building. It wasn't like any alien ship they had seen before. It looked old, very old. Keith Washington, the director of NASA, waited by the entrance. He was a tall man with dark skin and gray hair. He had seen many things in his life, but nothing like this. The ship's door opened slowly. A soft white light came from inside. Then a figure appeared. It was tall and thin with pale, almost transparent skin. It moved as if it barely touched the ground. "A primordial," whispered someone behind Keith. The primordials were the oldest species in the galaxy. They had been exploring space when humans were still living in caves. Most people thought they had gone into a kind of retirement, watching the younger races from a distance. No one had seen one in person for over 500 years. Until today. The primordial glided toward Keith. Its face had no mouth, but words appeared in Keith's mind. "I am eternity's voice," it said. "I speak for those who remember the beginning." Keith nodded. "I am Keith Washington. I speak for Earth." The alien's large eyes blinked slowly. "You have caused great disturbance, human. The balance we created over eons crumbles because of your actions." Keith kept his face calm, but inside he felt a mix of awe and anger. These beings had watched from afar while other species bullied humans. Now they appeared because the bullied had finally stood up for themselves. "We tried to live within your balance," Keith said. "It didn't work for us. The galaxy has rules," the primordial continued. "Rules that existed before your kind left your atmosphere. You disrupt what you do not understand." Keith thought of the human colony that had been destroyed, of the years spent following alien rules that always seemed to change when it was Earth's turn to benefit. "We understand enough," he said. "Your balance allowed genocides. It allowed enslavement. It allowed the strong to dominate the weak while you watched from your towers. That ends today." The primordial seemed to grow taller. The air around it shimmered. "You speak boldly for such a young species. Do you know what technologies my kind possesses? Weapons from the dawn of this galaxy that could turn your world to dust." Keith didn't flinch. "We know about your technologies. In fact, we've already reverse-engineered most of them." He pressed a button on his wrist device. A hologram appeared between them. It showed technical diagrams of devices far beyond what most species could understand. The primordial's eyes widened slightly. "Impossible," it said. "These are protected secrets." "Nothing stays secret forever," Keith replied. "While we were smiling and bowing at council meetings, our scientists were busy. Very busy." The primordial was silent for a long moment. Finally, it spoke again. "What do you want, humans? Domination? Revenge?" Keith shook his head. "Neither. We want what we've always wanted. To exist without asking permission. To explore without being held back. To be treated as equals, not children. And if we refuse, then stay out of our way," Keith said. His voice wasn't angry or threatening. It was simply stating a fact. "The old galaxy is gone. You can help build something better, or you can watch from your towers again. Your choice." The primordial stared at Keith for a long time. Then, without another word, it turned and glided back to its ship. As the strange vessel rose into the sky, Keith's assistant stepped beside him. "Do you think they'll help us?" she asked. Keith watched the ship disappear into the clouds. "I don't know. But I know they won't ignore us anymore." Back in their hidden realm, the primordials gathered in a great council. For the first time in thousands of years, they argued among themselves. Some wanted to crush the humans before they grew stronger. Others saw a chance for change in a system that had grown stagnant. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Linda Ortiz stepped off her ship onto the planet Nexus. The air was thinner than Earth's, and the gravity was slightly stronger. She took a moment to adjust before walking toward the large building ahead. Nexus was a meeting place for many species. It had stayed neutral when the coalition formed against Earth. Now, Linda was here to change that. Unlike the diplomats who had represented Earth before, Linda was different. She wore a simple blue suit, but she also had military medals pinned to her chest. She had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. She understood both words and weapons. Inside the building, representatives from 30 different species waited. Some looked like humans with small differences. Others were completely alien, clouds of gas, crystal beings, or creatures with too many limbs to count. They all watched Linda with curious eyes. "Thank you for meeting with me," Linda said. Her voice was calm but strong. "I am here to invite you to join the Mutual Defense Accord." "Another human alliance?" asked a tall, thin alien with blue skin. "Why should we join? The coalition has more ships, more worlds." Linda nodded. They did have more. "Would you like to see what they have now?" She touched a small device on her wrist. A three-dimensional image appeared in the air. It showed coalition ships drifting in space, unable to use their faster-than-light drives. It showed worlds cut off from trade, their economies failing. "This happened in 3 days," Linda said. "Not with weapons, but with technology that humans developed while smiling at council meetings and accepting insults." The room was silent. Linda continued, "We've spent a century trying to be good neighbors. We followed rules made by others. We asked permission to exist." Her voice grew harder. "Now we're done asking." A small creature that looked like a furry ball spoke up. "Are you threatening us?" Linda shook her head. "No, I'm offering you a choice. Join us as equals, oppose us at your peril, but know this: humanity will never again beg for its place among the stars." She showed them the terms of the accord. No member could attack another. All would share some technology. All would defend each other. Most importantly, all would be treated as equals, no matter how old or young their civilization was. As the aliens read the terms, Linda watched their reactions. Some looked afraid. Some looked interested. A few looked relieved. "The elder races have bullied many of you," she said softly. "They claimed their age gave them the right to decide who could explore space, who could colonize worlds, who could speak in council meetings." Several representatives nodded. They had suffered under the old system too. "We offer something different," Linda said. "Not human rule, but a true partnership." A reptilian alien with bright green scales stood up. "The Velox have been denied colony rights for 200 years. The Zorek claim all suitable planets belong to them by historical right." Its tongue flicked out. "We will join your accord." Others began to stand as well. Species that had been pushed aside by the elder races now saw a chance for something better. By the end of the day, 12 species had signed the Mutual Defense Accord. It wasn't just an alliance. It was the beginning of a new power structure in the galaxy. When Linda returned to her ship, she received a message from Earth. President Murphy's face appeared on the screen. "How did it go?" the president asked. "Better than expected," Linda replied. "The smaller species are eager to join us. They've been waiting for someone to stand up to the elder races." "And the others, the ones who didn't sign?" Linda smiled. "They're watching, waiting to see what happens next. But they're afraid, Madam President. For the first time, they're afraid of humans." "Good," said Murphy. "Fear isn't our goal, but if it keeps our people safe until respect can grow, I'll take it." As Linda's ship left Nexus, news of the accord spread across the galaxy. Old alliances began to crumble. The balance of power that had existed for thousands of years was shifting, and Earth was at the center of it all. Dr. Peter Collins stood in the control room deep beneath Denver. Screens covered the walls, showing maps of the galaxy. 17 red dots blinked on different star systems. "Operation Thunderclap is ready," he said to Dr. Olivia Young. She nodded and typed a code into her computer. "Dimensional disruptors activating in 3, 2, 1. On the screens, the red dots turned green. Peter took a deep breath. Years of secret work were about to pay off. "It's working," said Olivia. Her voice was quiet but excited. "All devices report successful activation." Across the galaxy, in 17 different star systems, strange things began to happen. Ships trying to jump to faster-than-light speed found they couldn't. Their engines worked fine, but space itself seemed to resist them. It was as if someone had changed the basic rules of physics. On the Zorek homeworld, Scientists rushed to their instruments. On Meraxian Prime, ship captains reported strange readings. In every coalition territory, faster-than-light travel became impossible. Their fleets were stranded wherever they happened to be. Their worlds were cut off from each other. And most importantly, they could no longer attack Earth or its colonies. The dimensional disruptors didn't harm anyone directly. They didn't destroy any planets or ships. They simply made it impossible for the coalition species to travel quickly through space. A journey that once took hours would now take decades. "Send the message," Peter told Olivia. She pressed another button. In coalition space, all communication devices received the same broadcast. It showed Peter sitting calmly at a desk. "Hello," he said. "I'm Dr. Peter Collins, lead scientist of Earth's Dimensional Physics Division. By now, you've noticed that faster-than-light travel no longer works in your territory. This isn't an attack. It's a defensive measure." He explained how the dimensional disruptors worked, how humans had secretly placed them throughout coalition space over the past 20 years, how they could have activated them at any time. "We chose diplomacy instead," Peter continued, "until you forced our hand by attacking Mars. The disruptors will remain active until you agree to end all hostilities against human worlds." The message ended. In coalition space, panic spread quickly. Meanwhile, on Mars, the battle continued. Commander Richard Hayes led the defense from a bunker beneath Olympus City. The coalition attack had damaged several domes, but emergency systems had saved most of the people inside. "Status report," Richard called out. "Dome 3 is breached," replied a young officer named Laura, "but we've evacuated all civilians to the underground shelters." Richard nodded. Mars had been preparing for this day for years. What looked like simple colony domes from space were actually sophisticated defensive structures. Within hours, civilian shelters had transformed into military installations. "What about our counterattack?" Richard asked. "The Hidden Fleet is engaging the enemy now," Laura said. "They weren't expecting us to have so many ships." On the screens, Richard watched as Earth ships emerged from hidden bases on Mars moons. They moved with incredible speed, targeting the coalition vessels with precision. Earth had kept its best technology secret for decades. Now that secrecy was paying off, the coalition fleet had expected an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves trapped and outgunned. "Sir," Laura called out, "we're receiving a message from the coalition commander. They're asking for terms of surrender." Richard smiled. "Tell them we accept their surrender. No prisoners will be harmed." Within hours, news of what happened at Mars spread throughout human space. Colonies that had lived in fear now celebrated. Earth had stood up to the biggest powers in the galaxy and won. But on Earth, President Murphy wasn't celebrating. She knew this was just the beginning. "The coalition is contained for now," she told her advisors. "But there are other species watching. Some will fear us. Some will hate us. We need allies." She pulled up a map of the galaxy on her screen. There were hundreds of species who had been bullied by the elder races, species who might welcome a new power that stood against the old order. "It's time for a diplomatic counteroffensive," she said. "But this time, we negotiate from strength." The Zorak Council chamber was filled with angry voices. Representatives from 17 different alien species argued with each other. Their different colors, shapes, and sizes made the room look like a strange garden. But these were not flowers. They were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were afraid. "The humans must be stopped," said Grax, the Zorak leader. His gray skin wrinkled as he spoke. "They have hidden their true strength from us for too long." A blue-skinned Meraxian stood up. "My people will provide 200 warships." "The Tulare will send our best soldiers," said another alien with 4 arms. One by one, they pledged their forces. Together, they formed the largest military coalition in 500 years. They called it the Galactic Defense Alliance, but everyone knew the truth. It was an anti-human coalition. "We will show these Earth creatures that they cannot threaten the established order," said Grax. The others nodded in agreement. None of them noticed the small cleaning drone in the corner of the room. Inside it, hidden among wires and dust, was a tiny camera. Colonel Diane Wells watched the entire meeting from a small ship hidden near the Jorek moon. She was short, with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. As head of Earth's special operations, she had placed spy devices throughout alien space years ago. "So they want to form a coalition," she said to her team. "How sweet." Her second-in-command, Major Paul Bennett, looked worried. "That's a lot of firepower they're gathering, Colonel. Should we report back to Earth?" Diane smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "No, I have a better idea." 12 hours later, the coalition leaders met again to finalize their attack plans. Suddenly, the large doors to the council chamber opened. Every alien turned to look. A human woman walked in. She wore a simple black uniform with no weapons. She was alone. "Hello," said Colonel Diane Wells. "I hope I'm not interrupting." The room fell silent. Guards rushed forward, but Diane held up her hand. "I wouldn't," she said calmly. "The devices I've placed around this building would make things very unpleasant if I don't check in with my team every 5 minutes." The guard stopped. Grax stood up from his seat. "How did you get past our security?" he demanded. "The same way I've been listening to all your meetings for the past 4 years, Diane replied. She walked to the center of the room and looked around at all the alien faces. "You have 12 hours to disband this coalition. After that, we stop being nice." A Tulare general slammed his 4 hands on the table. "You dare threaten us? Together we have thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers." Diane nodded. "Yes, and isn't it strange that I walked in here alone? Think about that." She turned and walked out. No one tried to stop her. The coalition leaders looked at each other. Some wanted to follow through with their plans. Others weren't so sure. "She was bluffing," said Grax finally. "The humans cannot stand against all of us. We attack as planned." 3 days later, the coalition launched their first strike. Their target was Mars, the human colony closest to Earth. 500 ships jumped into Mars space, expecting to find a few human defenders. Instead, they found nothing. Mars seemed completely undefended. "This is too easy," said the Maraxian commander. "Where are their ships?" "Perhaps they ran away," suggested his second. The coalition fleet moved closer to the red planet. Scanners showed human cities on the surface, but no military bases, no defense systems. "Begin the attack," ordered the commander. The first ships fired their weapons at Mars. That's when everything went wrong. Hidden defense systems activated all over the planet's surface. The sky above Mars seemed to tear open as hidden human ships appeared from nowhere. On Earth, President Murphy received the news of the attack. She looked at her military advisors. "They made their choice," she said. "Activate Operation Thunderclap." Across the galaxy, in 17 different star systems, small devices that humans had planted years ago suddenly turned on. The coalition had made a devastating mistake. They were about to learn that humans didn't make empty threats. Admiral Susan Miller stood on the bridge of the ESS Valiant, the largest ship in Earth's defense fleet. Through the main screen, she watched as 20 smaller ships moved into formation. Each one was painted dark gray with small blue lights. Each one carried weapons that no alien had ever seen before. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Lieutenant Ryan Paddle. His voice was steady, but Susan could see the tension in his shoulders. "Send the message to Earth," Susan said. "The Proxima response is about to begin." For decades, humans had built their ships to look simple. They had hidden their best technology. While alien ambassadors laughed at primitive humans in council meetings, engineers and scientists back on Earth had been busy. Very busy. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. The stars blurred around them. In just 4 hours, they reached Viridian space. "No alarm signals yet," said Captain Alan Garcia from the smaller ship ESS Defiance. They don't know we're here. Susan nodded. Begin Phase 1. 6 small ships broke formation. They moved toward the outer planets of the Viridian system. These worlds held defense stations, large weapons that protected the Viridian homeworld. The aliens believed these stations were impossible to attack without being seen. They were wrong. The human ships activated their cloaking systems. On Susan's screen, they seemed to fade away like ghosts. 10 minutes later, all 12 defense stations stopped transmitting signals. Phase 1 complete, reported Captain Garcia. No casualties on either side. Their systems are disabled, not destroyed. The rest of the fleet moved toward the Viridian homeworld. Now alarms began to sound. The Viridian ships, large purple vessels shaped like sharp teeth, moved to attack. "They're powering weapons," said Lieutenant Patel. Susan watched calmly. "Let them fire first." The Viridian ships launched energy beams, bright purple lights that cut through space. They hit the human ships and did nothing. The shield technology that Earth had kept secret absorbed every attack. "Now," Susan said, "show them what we can do." The human fleet fired, not with energy beams or missiles, but with small drones that moved faster than anything the galaxy had seen before. The drones attached to the Viridian ships and cut their power. In minutes, 50 Viridian warships floated helpless in space. "Their defense network is down," said Captain Garcia. "The Viridian homeworld is unprotected." "What are your orders, Admiral?" Everyone on the bridge grew quiet. They could destroy the planet now. They could kill billions of Viridians to avenge the human colony. Susan stood up. "Open a channel to the Viridian leaders, and make sure the entire galaxy can hear this message." The main screen showed a purple-skinned alien with wide, frightened eyes. "This is Admiral Susan Miller of Earth," she said. "Your defense network has been neutralized. Your ships are disabled. We could destroy your world right now, but we won't. Unlike you, we don't kill innocent people." The Viridian leader started to speak, but Susan continued. "We sought peace until it was no longer an option. This is your only warning, and a message to every species watching. The next one to mistake our restraint for weakness will not receive the mercy we've shown today." She ended the transmission. "Set course for Earth," she told the fleet. "Our message has been delivered." News of what happened spread across the galaxy in hours. Many alien species who had looked down on humans now felt afraid. They had believed humans were weak because they always sought peaceful solutions. Now they realized the truth. Humans hadn't been weak. They had been choosing not to use their strength. On worlds far from Earth, military leaders rushed to meeting rooms. The Zorak Dominion, oldest of all galactic powers, called its ambassadors home for emergency talks. Something dangerous had awakened, and they needed to decide what to do about it. "Admiral Miller," asked Lieutenant Patel as the fleet headed home, "do you think they'll leave us alone now?" Susan looked at the stars through the view screen. "No," she said quietly. "I think this is just the beginning." Jack Howard stood at the large window of the Galactic Council chamber. The stars beyond the glass seemed cold and distant, much like the alien representatives who sat behind him. For nearly 100 years, humans had tried to be good neighbors. For nearly 100 years, they had been treated like children. Jack straightened his blue diplomatic uniform and touched the silver pin on his chest. It showed Earth's symbol, a simple blue and green circle. This pin had been worn by every human ambassador since first contact. It stood for peace, for talking instead of fighting. Today, that might change. "The human delegation will now address the Council regarding the Proxima incident," said the Viridian speaker. His purple skin gleamed under the chamber lights. His voice held no guilt, even though his people had just killed 10,000 humans. Jack turned to face the Council. 50 alien species watched him from their raised seats. Some looked bored. Some looked annoyed. None looked sorry. 3 days ago, Jack began, the Viridian Empire destroyed our colony on Proxima Centauri. They claimed it was built on sacred territory. But we checked all records before building. We followed every rule you gave us. A tall, thin alien with gray skin stood up. The Viridians have older claims to that system. Humans are newcomers who do not understand the deeper history of our galaxy. Jack felt his heart beat faster. We lost 10,000 lives. Children, families, people who just wanted to live in peace. Regrettable, said the Viridian speaker, but your colony should not have been there. Another alien stood. This one had 6 eyes and spoke with a clicking sound. The Council has reviewed this matter. We propose sanctions against Earth for improper colonization practices. The room grew quiet. Jack could hear his own breathing. You want to punish us? He asked. When our people were the ones who died. Your people did not follow proper channels, said the 6-eyed alien. We did. Jack's voice echoed in the chamber. We filed every form, made every request, waited years for approval. The council members looked at each other. Some made strange sounds that the translation devices couldn't catch. Jack knew what was happening. They had already decided. The vote will now begin, announced the head of the council, an ancient species called the Jorek. One by one, the aliens voted. Jack watched as the display showed the results. 45 species voted to sanction Earth. Only 5 voted against. The council has spoken, said the Jorek. Earth will reduce its space travel by 30% for the next 5 years. The Viridian Empire will issue a formal statement of regret. Regret, Jack said. Not even an apology. They killed 10,000 humans. This matter is closed, the Jorek replied. Jack stood still for a long moment. 100 years of trying. 100 years of being patient while the older species looked down on humans. 100 years of playing by rules that always seemed to change when it was humanity's turn to benefit. He reached up and unpinned the silver Earth symbol from his chest. The small click it made seemed very loud in the quiet room. Some of the aliens leaned forward, curious about what this strange human was doing. Jack placed the pin on the floor. Then he looked up at the council one last time. We're done, he said simply. He turned and walked out of the chamber. No shouting, no threats, just 3 quiet footsteps that seemed to echo through the galaxy. Back on Earth, President Liz Murphy called an emergency meeting. Military leaders filled the White House Situation Room. Large screens showed the Proxima colony, now just floating pieces of metal and rock. Ambassador Howard has left the council, said the president. Her face was hard, her eyes cold. They voted to punish us instead of the killers. Admiral Davis, a tall man with gray hair, spoke first. Madam President, we've prepared for this day. Project Thunderstrike is ready. The president nodded. She looked at each person in the room. Diplomacy has failed, she said. They mistake our patience for weakness. It's time to show the galaxy what humans are truly capable of. No one smiled. No one cheered. They all knew what came next would change everything forever.